Yeah, good evening, one and all. We welcome you all to the international webinar series on holistic health, well-being, and sustainable development 2022, commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, nation celebrating 75 years of independence, and UN Sustainable Development Goals 2050 to 2030 awareness and campaign. As part of that, and in collaboration with Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute and Center for Art Sciences and Wellbeing. We welcome you all once again to the international webinar series. Before we start our session, let's take the blessings of Almighty.
कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः.
With the blessings of the Almighty, we shall continue to today's session. Today we are commemorating World Hepatitis Day. And this year we have the theme with hepatitis can't wait as a theme for the year, and bringing hepatitis care closer to the communities. So let's briefly look into the details about hepatitis and the World Hepatitis Day. We see that almost 1 crore 1 lakh people deaths per year caused by hepatitis B and C infections, and 9 crore 4 lakhs people are receiving treatment for chronic hepatitis C virus infection, and 10% of the people who have chronic infection with hepatitis B virus are diagnosed, and 22% of which receive treatment. And of that, 42% of the children globally have access to the birth dose of hepatitis B vaccine. So World Hepatitis Day is observed each year on 28 July to raise awareness of viral hepatitis, which causes inflammation of the liver that leads to severe disease and liver cancer. So the world is currently facing a new outbreak of unexplained acute hepatitis infections affecting children. World Health Organization, together with the scientists and policymakers in affected countries, are working to understand the cause of this infection that does not appear to belong to any of the known 5 types of hepatitis viruses, that is A, B, C, D, and E. These are 5 types of hepatitis viruses. This new outbreak brings focus on thousands of acute viral hepatitis infections that occur among children, adolescents, and adults every year. Most acute hepatitis infections can cause mild disease and even go undetected. But in some cases, they can lead complications and be fatal. In 2019 alone, an estimated 78,000 deaths occurred worldwide due to complications of acute hepatitis A to E infections. Global effects Sorry, there was some technical problem. Global efforts prioritize the elimination of the hepatitis infections, B, C, and D infections. Unlike acute viral hepatitis, these three infections cause chronic hepatitis that lasts for several decades and accumulate in over 1 million deaths per year from cirrhosis and liver cancer. These three types of chronic hepatitis infections are responsible for over 95% of hepatitis deaths. While we have the guidance and tools to diagnose, treat, and prevent chronic viral hepatitis, these services were often out of reach of communities, are sometimes only available at centralized specialized hospitals. On World Hepatitis Day 2022, WHO, World Health Organization, is highlighting the need for bringing hepatitis care closer to the primary health facilities and communities so that people have better access to treatment and care no matter what the type of hepatitis they may have. World Health Organization aims to achieve hepatitis elimination by 2030. To get there, World Health Organization calls on countries to achieve specific targets, that is, reducing new infections of hepatitis B and C by 90%, reduce hepatitis related deaths from liver cirrhosis and cancer by 65%, ensuring that at least 90% of the people with hepatitis B and C virus are diagnosed and at least 80% of those eligible receive appropriate treatment. So now let's look into each type of hepatitis. Hepatitis A is an inflammation. We have, as we have discussed, we have five categories, and we are looking at hepatitis A is an inflammation of the liver that can cause mild to severe illness. The hepatitis A virus, in short known as HAV, is transmitted through ingestion of contaminated food and water or through direct contact with an infectious person. Almost every everyone recovers fully from hepatitis A with a lifelong immunity. However, a very small portion of the people infected with hepatitis A who die from fulminant hepatitis. The risk of hepatitis A infection is associated with lack of safe water and poor sanitation and hygiene, such as contaminated and dirty hands. A safe and effective vaccine is available to prevent hepatitis A. So the symptoms include the incubation period for hepatitis A is usually 14 to 28 days. Symptoms of hepatitis A range from mild to severe and can include fever, malaise, loss of appetite, diarrhea, nausea, abdominal discomfort, dark colored urine, and jaundice, yellowing of the eyes and skin. Not everyone who is infected will have all the symptoms. And adults have signs and symptoms of illness more often than children. The severity of disease and fatal outcomes are higher in older age groups. Infected children under 6 years of age do not usually experience noticeable symptoms and only 10% develop jaundice. Hepatitis A sometimes relapses, meaning the person who just recovered falls sick again with another acute episode. So this is normally followed by recovery. Now, who is at risk? Anyone who has not been vaccinated or previously infected can get infected with the hepatitis A virus. In areas where virus is widespread, high endemicity, most hepatitis A infections occur during early childhood. Risk factors include poor sanitation, lack of safe water, living in a household with an infected person, being a sexual partner of someone whose acute hepatitis A infection, use of recreational drugs, sex between men, and traveling to areas of high endemicity without being immunized. So diagnosis, cases of hepatitis A are not clinically distinguishable from other types of acute viral hepatitis. Specific diagnosis is made by the detection of HIV specific immunoglobulin G, IgM in short, antibodies in the blood. Additional tests include reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction, RT-PCR, to detect the hepatitis A virus RNA and may require specialized laboratory facilities. And treatment, there is no specific treatment for hepatitis A. Recovery from symptoms following infection may be slow. It can take several weeks or months. It is important to avoid unnecessary medications. Acetaminophen, paracetamol, and medication against vomiting should be avoided. And hospitalization is unnecessary in the absence of acute liver failure. Therapy is aimed at maintaining comfort and adequate nutritional balance, including replacement of the fluids that are lost from vomiting and diarrhea. Prevention, improved sanitation, food safety, and immunization are the most effective ways to combat hepatitis. The spread of hepatitis A can be reduced. Adequate supplies of safe drinking water, food disposal of sewage within communities, and personal hygiene practices such as regular hand washing before meals and after going to the bathroom. Several injectable inactivated hepatitis A vaccines are available internationally. All provide similar protection from the virus and have comparably side effects. So no vaccine is licensed for children younger than 1 year of age. In China, a live attenuated vaccine is also available. And coming to hepatitis B, hepatitis B is a viral infection that attacks the liver and can cause both acute and chronic disease. The virus is most commonly transmitted from mother to child during birth and delivery, as well as through contact with blood or other body fluids during sex with an infected partner, unsafe injection, or exposures to sharp instruments. WHO estimates that 296 million people were living with chronic hepatitis B infection in 2019 and 1.5 million new infections every year. In 2019, hepatitis B resulted in an estimated 8,20,000 deaths, mostly from cirrhosis and hepatocellular carcinoma, that is primary liver cancer. Hepatitis B can be prevented by vaccines that are safe, available, and effective. And coming to hepatitis C, hepatitis C is an inflammation of the liver caused by hepatitis C virus. The virus can cause both acute and chronic hepatitis, ranging in severity from a mild illness to a serious lifelong illness, including liver cirrhosis and cancer. The hepatitis C virus is a blood-borne virus and most infection occur through exposure of blood from unsafe injection practices, unsafe healthcare, unscreened blood transfusions, injection drug use, and sexual practices that lead to exposure to blood. Globally, an estimated 58 million people have chronic hepatitis C virus infection, with about 1.5 million new infections occurring per year. There are an estimated 3.2 million adolescents and children with chronic hepatitis C infection. And WHO estimated in 2019, approximately 290,000 people died from hepatitis C, mostly from cirrhosis and hepatocellular carcinoma, that is primary liver cancer. Antiviral medicines can cure more than 95% of persons with hepatitis C infection, but access to diagnosis and treatment is low. There is currently no effective vaccine against hepatitis C. And coming to hepatitis D, hepatitis D virus is a virus that requires hepatitis B virus, HBV, in short, for its replication. So hepatitis D virus, HDV, affects globally nearly 5% of the people who have a chronic infection with hepatitis B virus. So HDV infection occurs when people become infected with both hepatitis B and hepatitis D simultaneously, co-infection, or get hepatitis D after first being infected with hepatitis B, that is superinfection. So populations that are more likely to have HBV and HDV co-infection include indigenous populations, recipients of hemodialysis, and people who inject drugs. And HDV infection occurs in the above methods, and populations that are more likely to have HBV and HDV co-infection include indigenous population, as mentioned, recipients of hemodialysis, and people who inject drugs. Worldwide, the number of HDV infections has increased since the 1980s due to mainly successful global HPV vaccination program. The combination of HDV and HBV infection is considered to be the most severe form of chronic viral hepatitis due to more rapid progression towards liver-related death and hepatocellular carcinoma. Hepatitis D infection can be prevented by hepatitis B immunization, but treatment success rates are very low. And hepatitis C is an inflammation of the liver caused by injection with the hepatitis E virus, HEV. Every year, there are an estimated 20 million HEV infections worldwide, leading to an estimated 3.3 million symptomatic cases of hepatitis E. World Health Organization estimates that hepatitis E caused approximately 44,000 deaths in 2015, accounting for 3.3% of the mortality due to viral hepatitis. The virus is transmitted via the focal route, oral route, principally via contaminated water. Hepatitis C is found worldwide, but the disease is most common in East and South Asia. A vaccine to prevent hepatitis C virus infection has been developed and it is licensed in China, but is not yet available elsewhere. So how we can prevent this hepatitis A to E is immunization coverage. Through immunization coverage and getting all population immunized, we can reduce the risk of hepatitis A to E infections. So only 25 vaccine introductions other than COVID-19 vaccines were reported in 2021. Global coverage dropped from 86% in 2019 to 81% in 2021. An estimated 25 million children under the age of 1 year did not receive basic vaccines, which is the highest number since 2009. The number of girls not vaccinated against human papillovirus, that is HPV, increased by 3.5 million compared to 2019. In 2021, the number of completely unvaccinated children increased by 5 million since 2019. Now, the global immunization coverage 2021 for various vaccination, that is HPV and HIV, hepatitis B, human papillovirus, HPV, meningitis A, measles, mumps, pneumococcal diseases, polio, rotaviruses, rubella, tetanus, yellow fever, and all. In 2021, 18.2 million infants did not receive an initial dose of DTP vaccine, pointing on a lack of access to immunization and other health services, and an additional 6.8 million are partially vaccinated. Of the 25 million, more than 60% of these children live in 10 countries. Monitoring data at substantial levels is critical to helping countries prioritize and tailor vaccination strategies and operational plans to address immunization gaps and reach every person with the life-saving vaccines. So, immunization agenda for 2030, I sets an ambitious overarching global vision and strategy for vaccines and immunizations for the decade 2021-2030. It was co-created with thousands of contributors from the countries and organizations around the world. It draws on lessons from the past decades and acknowledges continuing and new challenges posed by infectious diseases. The strategy has been designed to respond to the interests of every country and intends to inspire and align the activities of community, national, regional, and global stakeholders towards achieving a world where everyone, everywhere fully benefits the vaccine for good health and well-being. So IA 2030 is operationalized through regional and national strategies and mechanisms to ensure ownership and accountability, and a monitoring and evaluation framework to guide country implementation. So with this, we shall conclude this topic here. Thank you everyone for patiently listening. If you have any queries, you can raise your hand or you can unmute yourself. Okay, if there are no queries, then we shall conclude it here. So we thank you once again, one and all the participants for joining today. On behalf of Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute Center for Art Sciences, thank you. Kindly find the feedback form in the chat box. And before leaving, kindly fill up the feedback form. It is mandatory for receiving certificates. We'll be there for another 5 minutes, so quickly fill up the feedback form. Dear participants, quickly fill up the feedback form before we leave the webinar. See you all tomorrow at the same time with a different topic, with the same link. Take care. Good night. Dear participants, quickly fill up the feedback form. Once you have completed filling up the feedback form, you may leave the webinar. Thank you. Take care.